Welcome to Family Basics 101. I'm Dr. Bruce McClure, the local minister at the Prince George's Church of Christ, and we're located at 7800 Central Avenue in Landover, Maryland. Throughout the week, because of Valentine's, we're doing a series entitled Understanding Love Languages. On yesterday, we spent a little bit of time trying to set the foundation for what love languages are all about. According to Dr. Gary Chapman in his book, Five Love Languages, the emphasis is on the way an individual receives love from others instead of how an individual gives love to others. So throughout this series, keep in mind, it's not the way you give love, it's the way you receive love. And as we mentioned on yesterday also, habits of communication over time, whether good or bad, are very challenging to extinguish. What an individual learns early in life is to receive from others the basic survival needs, such as others are expected to feed us, others are expected to nurture us, others are expected to maintain our hygiene as infants, and others are even expected to house us and provide for our daily needs. And as we mentioned on yesterday as well, ironically, although every person has a need for each of those expectations, how they are prioritized within each person may vary. The need most important within an individual more easily converts into the assumed need that is most important to everyone else. In essence, everyone needs the five love languages, but they may not need them in the same order that another person needs them, and they may not need them in the proportion that others may need them. So today we're going to spend a few minutes just trying to explain the five love languages. Let's first define language. The Hebrew word sapa means to open the lips, to speech, utilizing words, binding, or cloth. And you say, well, what does cloth or binding have to do with language? It's of one cloth. It's of one cut. Whenever you take a cloth or you make a cloth and you try to take one from another batch and put it into the original, have you noticed it many times does not match? So when you talk about language, you're talking about one cloth, one cut, one meal of fabric. It's all bound together as one. But the Greek word for language, dialectos, means speech. It's a word that we use all the time when we talk about dialect. We're simply talking about speech. We're talking about a discourse that is peculiar or unique to any people. In the book of Acts, chapter 2, take a quick look at verse number 6. Now, when this was noised abroad, the multitude came together, and they were confounded, because that every man heard them speak in his own peculiar, unique discourse method. The utilization of the same words that were easily understood by all. They were cut from the same cloth and they were bound together. That's basically a good, simplistic working definition of language. And especially for us in the West, when we talk about our dialect, it's peculiar, it's unique to us, But at the same time, when we move from region to region to region, it will have its own unique attributes added to it or taken away. Now, for the sake of understanding the five love languages, you may notice I've kind of modified this and said five known love languages, because what Dr. Gary Chapman would never say is that these are the exhaustive list of the way people communicate. This was used by Chapman simply to help people begin to understand how varied the love languages are. So Chapman broke it into five components. Words of affirmation, basically saying supportive things about others. This is not your love language. This is the language of other people, maybe. When we talk about acts of service, doing helpful things for other people, it may not be your love language. When we talk about receiving gifts, acquiring items that say you are being thought about. When we talk about quality time, spending meaningful time together. And I think it's important to really pay attention to the word meaningful time, not just in the same room together. And then finally, when we talk about physical touch, being close to, we'll talk in future sessions, especially on Friday, about the variations of physical touch, the appropriateness depending on the relationship of the physical touch. But these are the basic five love languages that Dr. Chapman will make the case that for the most part, every human being has need of. Let me go to the next slide and we will expand on this somewhat. When you look at the idea that no man is an island, we must understand what that really means. When God created Adam, Adam was surrounded by animals, birds, fish, fowl, but he was literally on an island by himself, having no one like him to do things for him. Now, keep in mind, all people have different fingerprints. And even now it has been discovered that no two people have exactly the same eye pupil retina recognition. There are certain places, especially at the airport now, where you can simply look into a machine and they can identify you or me uniquely. Likewise, no two people have the exact same personality, which determines how one receives the five primary life needs. In other words, when we talk about affirmation or acts of service or any of these, there is still some uniqueness for each individual within the love language. So you can't go out and affirm everyone the same way. You can't go out and serve everyone exactly the same way. You can't buy the same gift for everyone and say, look, if their love language is receiving gifts, then I just find a sale and I'll buy 1,000 gifts, and everybody over the course of my lifetime that I run into and their love language is the receiving of gifts, I'll give them the exact same thing. It probably won't work. In terms of quality time, being around someone, there's going to be variations of that, driven by the unique fingerprint, the unique retina, or the unique personality of the individual. When we talk about the love language of touch, that's going to vary from person to person. And it's also going to vary driven by the level of the connectivity of the relationship to make it appropriate or not in touch. Now, biblically, I want you to look at the book of Genesis, chapter 2. Genesis 2, verses 15 through 19. And the Lord God took the man, put him into the Garden of Eden to dress it and to keep it. And the Lord God commanded the man, saying, of every tree of the garden thou mayest eat freely, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not eat of it. For in the day that thou eatest thereof, thou shalt surely die. And the Lord God said, it is not good that the man should be alone. I will make him a help that is designed for him. Why make him a help? He's got animals. He's got fish and fowl. So why does God make a help for Adam? Well, in part, to share a common language. Adam does not have anyone to share a common language. Adam cannot affirm, nor can Adam be affirmed, saying supportive things. And Adam has a perfect relationship with God. But God understood Adam needs an affirming word, someone saying affirmative things to him about the work he is doing with the animals, with the birds, with the fish, with the fowl, at the end of a hard day's journey. He knew God was pleased with what he was doing, but what God understood is that mankind moving forward, part of their temperament, part of their personality would be to hear a like person speaking a similar language, saying supportive things to him. He comes in from a hard day's work, and he would need, maybe if his language is affirmation, a voice like his saying, how was your day? A voice like his saying, how did the animals do today? Likewise with the act of service, doing helpful things for. Adam had done helpful things for mankind, well, for creation all day long. But Adam did not have anyone to do acts of service for him, to bring him a towel to wet, or to wipe the sweat from his forehead, or to bring a drink of water to him. Those type acts of service, or to cook him a meal, or for him to cook a meal for someone. Adam didn't have anyone to give a gift to. He had no one to provide a gift for him, acquiring items that may just say you're thought about. There was no one suitable for Adam. There was no one at the end of Adam's day or at the beginning of his day for him to spend quality time, spending meaningful time with. Well, he had the animals, he had the fish, the fowl, he had all of the work responsibility, but there was no one like him to share those tasks with. So the quality time was for, if this is what Adam needs, then he has to have someone to provide that for him. And then finally, just to expand on physical touch, being close to. Can you imagine Adam being close to the animals, the fish, the fowls, the birds of the air all day long? and then come home every single day. And keep in mind, there was no sin at this point. And he was going to spend all of that time in the garden every single day, not being touched, not being gently caressed. I mean, God understood the needs of Adam beyond Adam understanding the needs of Adam. So therein is sort of the foundation of the 5 love languages. And what God understood is whether these needs are being met or not, man really had a desire, an inner need for them. So I would like for you to come back tomorrow. I'm sorry, not tomorrow, Thursday. And we're going to discuss, how do you determine your love language? We talk about, yeah, those sound good. But how do you determine your love language? Yesterday was Valentine's Day. And people went out and probably spent billions of dollars on flowers, another $1 billion on candy, another $1 billion. The big thing used to be lingerie. I guess it still is. Billions of dollars on meals. But the question is, who the money was spent for and the gifts were given to. I wonder what the reactions were if that wasn't the individual's love language. You spend and literally people would spend $200 for roses. But what if that wasn't the spouse's love language? What if the love language was simply spending time together, watching a movie together? That's why it becomes imperative for us to understand God's scheme for how we communicate with each other. Come back again tomorrow, and again, we will talk about how to determine these love languages. I look forward, I keep saying tomorrow. Tomorrow we have Wednesday night Bible class beginning at 7:30 p.m. So join us for 7:30 p.m. Bible class on tomorrow night. And then on Thursday at noon, join me again for our Family Basics 101 conclusion of the 5 love language. I look forward to seeing you back in class again Thursday. Don't be late and don't skip class.